Eden, humanity's first home. On the seventh day, after the works of creation, God entered into his holy rest. He planted a sacred garden in Eden and dwelt there, giving humanity a home in his holy presence. It's described as both a mountain and a garden in the Old Testament. Eden was filled with creatures of both heaven and earth. It was the headquarters of the host of heaven. Here before the throne of God, the divine council assembled. This garden is the first place where we encounter the cherubim. In Western Christian art, cherubim have been adapted to look like Cupid, a god associated with uncontrollable lust and sexual desire. The Israelites and their neighbors didn't describe cherubim as chubby, naked babies with wings. The cherub is connected to creatures like the Sphinx, griffin, and dragon, hybrid creatures with mixtures of different animal aspects. Their main role was to guard sacred space. In Genesis, they're patrolling the border of the Garden of Eden. The temple in Israel was a miniature version of the garden. God, humans, animals, and the heavenly host in a garden paradise. It was sacred space. Inside, it was decorated with gold and images of luxurious trees. Cherubim were carved into its walls and embroidered into its curtains in the veil of the Holy of Holies. Inside the Holy of Holies, two huge cherubim overshadowed the ark. The ark itself had cherubim sculpted into it. Each time these sacred guardians are encountered in the Bible, their descriptions have some differences. Different numbers of faces, wings, and limbs. Sometimes they're even covered in eyes. It's easy for modern Western minds to get caught up in literalism and miss the point. The descriptions are meant to draw attention to the role of these beings as guardians of holy space. This is why they're described in a way that embodies aspects from all the sacred guardians in the ancient cultures around them. It would be understandable imagery to the Bible writers, as well as a witness to the pagan cultures around them. Yahweh of hosts, God of Israel, the one enthroned between the cherubim, you alone are God of all the kingdoms of the earth. You are the one who made the heavens and the earth. Isaiah 37:16. In chapter 6, Isaiah encounters these sacred guardians in the heavenly temple at Yahweh's throne. He describes them with the characteristics we'd expect of cherubim, but he instead calls them seraphim. It's the Hebrew word for venomous snake. Every other time this word occurs in the entire Hebrew Bible, it refers to snakes. Israel's neighbors also described divine guardians as fiery winged snakes who could spit fire to burn their enemies. And when Isaiah sees these serpentine guardians, they're speaking, a talking snake. The connection between the cherubim and seraphim is key to understanding the origin story of the adversary, the rebel serpent from the garden. When the prophets saw corrupt rulers like the king of Tyre and Babylon, they compare them to a divine rebel in the Garden of Eden. They saw this rebel as the inspiration behind the corrupt rulers and their kingdoms. He was in proximity to God's throne, a guardian cherub. He should have been protecting the humans from the forbidden tree, not tempting them to eat from it. He desired God's throne and the kingdom the humans were created to spread and rule as God's image. He instigated the fall of humanity, and through doing this, gained power over them. Because they chose to listen to the serpent, the humans were sent out from the garden, exiled from their home within God's presence. Separated from true life, they would succumb to mortality, chaos, suffering, depravity, death. All because of sin, they were held captive. The adversary, the serpent, was now the god of this world and the lord of the grave. But he was cast down to the dust of the earth, where he would eventually face his ultimate defeat and destruction. God vows redemption for humanity from death and sin. An image begins to emerge in the scriptures. The seed of the woman, son of Adam, son of Abraham, root of Jesse, Christ. He would break the chains of sin and free humanity from the power of the grave. He would be named Salvation. In Hebrew, it's the name Yeshua. And in English, Jesus. Are you beginning to see the importance of understanding the spiritual worldview of the Bible writers? This is our story. Humanity is held captive, but the way has been opened. If you follow Jesus, then salvation lives in you.